Good morning. We have Alaine and Linda have agreed to talk with me and share with you her story about how Irlen has helped her in her life and how she came to discover this in the first place. And we thought we would start today with just a little background of her medical history, and then we'll move on from there. So what would you like to share about that, Alaine?
I think the most pertinent piece of information is probably that I had stomach aches and headaches growing up all of the time. And nothing was ever really diagnosed about them, but I just had them chronically. I never got an anxiety diagnosis, but I think that like some of that was anxiety, but now I'm really noticing that I think a lot of that had to do with how overstimulated my eyes and brain were from not seeing the world correctly. I think that would probably be the most pertinent piece of information.
Okay, so what did you do to help yourself get through life up to this point with those symptoms?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it became just masking. Nothing really helped. Like I would say, like I have a headache or a stomach ache, and nothing, no like intervention, like Tylenol or like whatever was being given to me wasn't helping. And so I think I really just learned to cope with having headaches and stomach aches all of the time. I would say, yeah, I really just masked pretty heavily and just sort of muscled my way through.
Okay. How did you discover Irlen syndrome?
In March, I started working with an occupational therapist for sensory processing disorder. And we were kind of moving along well, fixing like auditory overstimulation and like tactile stuff, like giving me coping mechanisms for that. And we were struggling with the light. Like we really just couldn't figure out how to fix how upsetting the light was for me. Like driving at night became something that I just simply couldn't do anymore. All of the lights in my house were always turned down or off. All the blinds were pulled. It was getting so overwhelming and not getting better. And so my occupational therapist suggested trying Irlen. She was like, I don't know exactly what it is. She was like, I know there's something about like colored glasses. And she was like, I really don't know. But she referred me to you. She gave me your name and kind of a little bit of information about Irlen, but she herself really was like, I don't know what this is, but like, let's try it.
Tell me a little bit about the connection between where the light connection came in, because a lot of people don't make that correlation between their symptoms and the light. They think it's other things. So do you remember where that correlation came in?
I've always struggled with light. So I think for me, it was like we had quieted the auditory. She'd given me a lot of tools to cope with being overstimulated with like too much sound. And then we had really worked with like, textures of food and like tactile sensitivity. And I think that like when those things were quieted, like light was all that was left. And it was easy for me to then say like, okay, when there's this many lights on, like that is what is overwhelming me now, because like everything's quiet. I don't have any clothes that are bothering me or like foods that are bothering me now. Like sort of the light was all that was left. And I think that that's what really helped us connect the dots there. I mean, and Diane for sure was helpful with that, the occupational therapist.
We even tried like a darker plate to put food on, thinking that maybe her stomach was responding to the light bouncing off the plate,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What did you do for noise? What tools did you use for noise?
Yeah, so I wear AirPods quite often with the noise cancellation on. I was using those a lot, like kind of all of the time. And then, just the people around me just were really lovely, but I was able to say like, hey, that's too loud for me, or would it be okay if we turn the music down? Or like, can one person talk at a time? I was really having to ask for that. And the people around me were being really respectful, but that's sort of what we were doing to control the noise. I was wearing AirPods and then just speaking up if it was a little too much for me. Which is, it's a little taxing to the people that I'm around for them to constantly have to be respectful of that. I mean, they were, but I felt bad constantly saying like, that's too loud for me, or like, can we turn it down all of the time?
So this comes in two steps. The first step is the screening to see if you have it, the severity, and if filters are the next step for a person. So what did we discover at the screening? process, during the screening process?
The screening was my favorite thing that's ever happened to me, because I went in really being like, I don't know what this is. Like, I didn't do research because I was just so overwhelmed at that point. I didn't know what it was, and I was really sort of just like, whatever, I'll try it, but I don't think it's going to work.
And also, any moment on the screen to do research would have been so overstimulating. So.
Yeah, I was having my iPad and my phone turned, the brightness was turned way down, and I had it on the black background or whatever.
Right.
So at the screening, I just remember being like, all the lights we had turned down, like the blinds were pulled, and I just was like, I'm gonna do this so that I can say that I did it, And all of the tests are on white paper, and so immediately I'm like, this is awful. Like, my stomach is hurting, like my head is hurting, and all of the black on the white is just like the worst combination. And so I just remember feeling so overwhelmed and so overstimulated. And then I remember you saying like, oh, like we have these colored overlays, and the first one was red. And I was like, I hate the color red. And so I was like, oh, great. Like, this is like, it's not getting better, right? Like, it's not getting better. And then when you were like, moving away from the warmer colors, I think I'll just never forget the like turquoise color going over the words, because I realized in that moment, like that this was real. And I think seeing like the spaces between the words for the first time, like I just remember I kept saying like, I can see the spaces, like I can see the spaces. And I just wanted to never stop looking at the words, even though they weren't in a language that I even understood. I just wanted to look at them, but they were like, they held so still. And it was like, it made my whole body feel really calm to look at the words being so still. And then when I would look away at the rest of the room, it's like the rest of the room's still moving, but then I could look back at the words, and like the inside of me just felt so calm. I think that was the moment for me.
Yeah, the moment. So you're a musician too. So what happened with the music when you're reading music?
Yeah. Putting the overlays over the music was life-changing. I mean, I could actually see what the notes were instead of really kind of being like, I don't know what the note is because I can't tell if it's on a line or a space. And it was mind-boggling to me again, because everything just holds still with the overlays, and I was so unaccustomed to that.
I'm a chosen mom, not a bio mom, so I'm the one trying to help her hack into this beautiful brain she has and figure it, give it the care it needs. And so when I just want to mention, I think it would be helpful to say she's, if anything, an overachiever. So has taught herself French, has taught herself to play the violin, has reads War and Peace in her backpack going to Europe, so she just has it with her. However, all those things have hurt her body, like actually harmed and also felt painful. And so for people to know that it's not that, it's disabled her from life, but it got to a level in January where we weren't going to be able to do it anymore. It was just, and that's when we began to go down the OT trail, and that was very, very helpful. But without the Irlen piece, I feel like we'd be at like, I don't know, 50% or less of our recovery for the brain to be able to settle. And so for me to see someone who had tried, she teaches other people violin, she just way highly functional,
too functional perhaps,
and perhaps her brain it just didn't have the help.
Right. So that's that, and I talk about this at the screening, that's an ability versus performance gap that people have. So they can do it, but they can't do it at the same time. It's especially in certain settings. I mean, they reach a point where it's just too much, and they have to give up and stop whatever it is that they're doing. Right. Exactly. Let's move on to the diagnostic piece, which is the second piece of this, which is the Irlen Filters worn as glasses. And you did mention that the turquoise overlay took care of the reading portion of whatever music or the computer screen or paper. But as soon as you look up, you're back to ground zero, because it's not just a reading issue. It's an whole environmental issue. Right. So tell me what happened at the diagnostic appointment for you.
Yeah, I just remember wishing I could just, because the overlays ended up being gray and turquoise overlapped, and that was lovely. And I just remember being like, I wish we could just grab gray and turquoise like lenses, and like that was the answer. But we certainly needed more than that. And I just remember looking around the house like over and over, and like how amazing it was to me that like as soon as we put up a lens that wasn't a good choice, the way that my body would respond, which now I can feel because the overlays give me they give me a chance to feel that difference. You know, looking at the overlays makes my body feel different than looking away from the overlays. And I think that was helpful because then I was able to be like, I can feel this in my stomach or like my head. Or sometimes it would just make me feel really anxious to choose the colors that weren't a good fit. And so that made it possible for me to know when it was a good fit, you know, because then it was like, I feel better with this than when we take it away. And so I just remember us like stacking so many. I really didn't think I was going to need 6. That was still really shocking to me that I needed so many colors to see. But I just remember at the end, we stacked them all up and like looked into the fluorescent lights, and I just could stand there and look at the fluorescent lights, and it was like, I don't feel sick, you know. And then we went outside, and I remember I could open the sunroof on my car with the sun coming like streaming in, and it was really cool. Like I think that like it's also a little bit of like cruelness though, right? Because then I got to see everything so beautifully, and then like the waiting is so hard because it's like you can't unsee it once you see it, right?
Right, exactly. So we were talking earlier about, you know, with and without.
Yeah.
So can you describe that a little bit without your lenses, what that feels like?
Yeah, so without them, the whole world like in front of me looks like TV static. So it sort of looks like if your satellite isn't well connected or it's like not pointed the right way or like whatever, there's like a poor connection. And so it looks like that, kind of like that snow or like the lines and like spots. And it's like it's vibrating because it's not in the right, it just really feels like it's in the wrong dimension for me. And I didn't know that until I saw it right. So now that I've seen it right, I really don't like taking my glasses off ever because it's so stark to me now.
Right. So we did talk about like at night when you know, if you need to get up in the middle of the night, do you put your filters on? I've had other patients that have done that because they just they can't stand to walk around without anything on. Do you do that, or do you just kind of walk around with your eyes closed?
I don't get up at night really, but I will say I fall asleep in them a lot. I don't mean to, but like I just don't want to take them off, and so then I end up falling asleep on my back with my glasses on. I also take a bath in them. I don't shower in them because it's just too hard to keep them from being foggy or like splashed on. But if I take a bath, I don't take them off while I'm in the bath unless I'm wanting like to wash my face, and then I put them right back on.
One other potential contrast is we actually go to the same church, and so church has been a trial, as you can imagine, because there would be the wrong kind of lighting. We have windows that I love. You can see the trees. However, that's a problem. We hadn't been able to find a spot in the sanctuary that felt safe for her brain. And then Sunday I actually was in the foyer doing some things and never got into to sit by her. And so guess who forgot or something to put her glasses on?
My glasses on at church.
And when I saw her afterwards, it was like a very bad blast from the past. It was like, could we possibly slip those back on? And she was not. It took a while to recover from not wearing them for that hour or whatever. So that's been to go in public places, or as soon as she got her glasses, maybe I'm jumping ahead, but the day she got the glasses in the mail, we went and picked them up, and I had to go to the plumbing store, and I was like, so we try you going in? And it was very white in there, and it was very bright in there, and it was
so, it was so great because I was like, look, I can look at fluorescent lights on purpose. And there was like stark bathtubs and like sheetrocked walls, and none of it bothered me. Like none of it made my stomach hurt or my head hurt. It was so cool.
So did you errands or be able to do things with family or to go out to eat? Or, you know, to be able to do things with people that love you and would rather not leave you in the car or alone at home.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all. It's just a whole family win, you know?
Exactly. So Alaine, you were talking a little bit about telling your sister she can turn the light on.
Oh yeah. So when I first got home, Steph was like in the kitchen, and I came in and all the lights are off, you know, because they always keep the lights off for me. And she was like, how are the glasses? And I said, they're so good, like you can turn the lights on. And she we have dimmers, so she only turned them up halfway, and I was like, no, like you can turn them all the way up. And she was like, really? And I was like, yes. And she turned them all the way up, like the dining room and the living room. And she's like, and that's not hurting you? And I was like, no, like it's not hurting at all. And so now, like we get to leave all of the lights on if that's what she wants to do, and it doesn't bother me now the way that it used to. Like I would literally be like, hey, is it okay if we turn the lights off, because I can't be in here otherwise. It's just it's so painful. Like it hurts my eyes so much.
Right. That's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, because I remember when I came over to help you with the filters, going into the kitchen, and then out the back onto the patio in the back, and how comfortable that was for you. And our brain needs the contrast to see.
Yeah.
We need the light. We need the light. But and talk a little bit about sunglasses. Have you always worn sunglasses outside, and what kind of sky bothers you more? Is it the white? Is it the blue? Is it the sunlight? Go ahead.
So I would say like white light, like overcast sky is the hardest for me. And so before I had the filters, I would wear really dark sunglasses like kind of all of the time. Even inside, in places I felt comfortable, because I feel a little weird wearing sunglasses inside, but it got to the point where I sort of had to. And so I would wear my really dark ones a lot. And now I hardly ever wear sunglasses. The only time I would like entertain it would be like if it's like super stark white sky and I have to be outside and it's just, it's too much. But for the most part, I really don't wear sunglasses anymore. I kind of don't really need to. The bucket hat like kind of shields me if I am feeling like it's a little bright, but yeah, for the most part, really don't wear sunglasses. And I used to carry like 3 or 4 pairs in my backpack of varying darknesses in case like I didn't know what I was going to need, and I don't do that anymore.
Wow. That's amazing. What would you recommend for other people who are skeptical, or just discovering Irlen syndrome? What would you recommend that they do first?
Yeah, I was thinking about this because I was skeptical, I think the brain scans for me were a really important piece. Like when you showed me the brain scans, because that feels like a really concrete piece of evidence that like this is happening, to people's brains. And so I've actually brought that up when I've spoken to other people about it, to show them, or I've linked the picture of the brain scan, because I think that that's just pretty clear, and that removes that piece of like kind of thinking it's, I don't know. I think a lot of people are like, oh, colored glasses, that sounds like fake. But I think that when you have a piece of evidence like that, it's pretty hard to refute. And so I think that for me would be like what I would recommend, like just looking at that and kind of reading about it a bit.
Right. And then there is that on the website. So there are things on the website that people can try. There's free tests. There's little glasses on the top, and you can change the background, different colors. This brain scan is in there, or you can always request it from me. And I actually did go on the website.
I did with my OT. She read me the questions, because that's actually an important piece, I think. I was unable to read the questionnaire myself because it's too hard for me to like track, across the question to like where you would circle the answer. And so we did this small like online self-test with my OT, and she was reading me the questions, and I answered yes to like every single one. And I was a little worried that I was wrong. I really gaslight myself a lot, and I was like, I made it more than it is, and I think that having that little self-test though is important, because then I realized like I answered yes to every single one, and it says on there like if you answer yes to like 3 or more or whatever, you should be screened. And I think that that's a helpful tool as well, because whether you can do it yourself or you can have someone read it for you, I think that gives you kind of an idea of where you sit without having to commit to anything.
Yeah. So I think I'm thinking back about that, because it's pretty immediate when you find the right color.
Yeah.
If it works or if it doesn't.
Yeah.
Because the screening lasted with you, I would say maybe a half an hour, because the tasks were so overwhelming that you only made it through maybe 1 or 2 of the tasks, which is a picture of black outline of something on white, high, shiny, glossy paper, which brings the symptoms on faster, so that we can then determine if this works for you with the overlays. And it's immediate, non-invasive. You don't have to wait for things to happen. and it either works or it doesn't, which is really cool. Anything else you'd like to share with other people out there that are just discovering this?
I think one of the really cool things for me is that once the light wasn't so overwhelming for me, I've noticed that it's easier to control my other sensory processing issues. So, light, sound, and textures are really kind of where my main problems lie. And I've noticed that now that my brain and body just feel calmer when I'm wearing the glasses, and I've been wearing them now for I think a month or something, maybe 6 weeks. And the longer I've had them on, I've noticed that I don't feel overwhelmed by sounds the way that I used to, without them. I definitely still have processing struggles, but it does really, really help for me not to feel so on fire all of the time with the way that things look to me. I think that is kind of the most life-changing piece, because otherwise it was we were trying to control the light piece and it wasn't going well. We just really couldn't find a solution. And then once we got in the Irlen, the filters, that was the missing piece, I think, because it's now much easier to control all of the overstimulation.
Right. And what I find is people's world tends to get very small because light is everywhere. And we can't control it, in the stores or, in the theater or at a hotel or at the airport or wherever we go. You can't control it. Yeah. And then you go outside and the sky is white. So you just don't go outside anymore. So I'm finding a lot of people whose world is so narrow. I have had some people that haven't been outside for 3 to 5 years or very, very little because it's so painful for their system. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I had stopped going to
Yeah. Linda, is there any last parting words you'd like to share?
There are very few things in the world that help as quickly as these lenses, and to see how it's impacted her life, and actually then all of our lives, because it's hard. I would prefer on a sunny day to see outside, but I'm not going to if it hurts somebody I care about. So it's just small things like that to larger things. And I know where when her little kiddos that she lives with come down to see her in the morning, if her glasses aren't on, they're like, we're going to run upstairs and get them for you. Make sure that
that's cool. Yeah, because they know.
And you get used to, I think she looks unclothed to me without them. It looks like she doesn't have makeup on, or she doesn't have her hair done, or something's weird. So they're beautiful, and she picked a really good light frame that doesn't even feel much on her face.
Yeah.
And so
that's that sensory piece too, right? With the glasses, because a lot of people have sensory issues, have struggle with their frames, touching their face somewhere. Yeah.
And these are the silhouette ones you recommended, and I really truly don't think that I would be able to leave other glasses on my face. I know that I wouldn't. Even the sunglasses I was wearing, I hated having them on, but it was I had to choose, either my eyes are closed or I'm wearing these. But I hated having them on my face, and these are so light I quite literally cannot feel them, which allows me to leave them on without feeling sensorily overwhelmed.
Nice. Excellent. Yay. Well, I'm super excited for you and your new high quality of life. And thank you so much for sharing with us today. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And now in my purse, I have, as a gift from her, I have a little clip that's clipped on my purse strap. It says, let's start a conversation about Irlen.
Yes.
Aww.
We're trying to spread the word.
That's cool. Thank you again.